He is one of the founding fathers of African literature, the winner of countless honors and awards, and the author of dozens of acclaimed essays and books, including the groundbreaking novel Things Fall Apart, which celebrated its 50th anniversary last year. His works have been taught throughout the world, and he's a hero in his homeland of Nigeria.
You are my brothers and sisters. I've been away too long.
This week on African Voices, the novelist, poet, and professor Chinua Achebe.
You think you are the greatest sufferer in the world. Do you know that men are sometimes banished for life? Do you know that men sometimes lose all their yams and even their children? I had 6 wives once. I have none now, except that young girl who knows not her right from her left. Do you know how many children I have buried? Children I begot in my youth and strength? 22. I did not hang myself, and I am still alive. If you think you are the greatest sufferer in the world, ask my daughter, Akweni, how many twins she has born and thrown away. Have you not heard the song they sing when a woman dies? For whom is it well? For whom is it well? There is no one for whom it is well. Omakala onye, onwele onye ọ dị na mma.
Tucked away in a quiet town in upstate New York is where he's been living and working as a professor here for nearly 20 years. It's a long way from his homeland, the Igbo region of Nigeria. I spent a day with him discussing family, books, and storytelling.
I think storytelling was my life, was part of my life. I was very curious about stories. So even attempting to remember the first one, I think, is like remembering the day you were born. I'm not sure you can.
It's so fitting. We're sitting in a library. It seemed to be one of your favorite places to be.
Well, at that level, I was absolutely fascinated by books. And I had a school that understood particularly the value and the importance of books and libraries. You were not expected, you were not allowed to read textbooks after classes on a number of days. The principal called it the textbook act, which he passed, and you were forbidden to read, to pick up your geography or history.
At this government college in Umuahia, he read European classics like David Copperfield and Heart of Darkness, a work that he would in later years call racist. But as a child, he saw no harm.
When you would read some of these books, you would side with the European characters or the white characters and not with the African characters. I find that hard to believe. Is that true?
It's absolutely true. And it's not hard to believe. What it tells you is the power that stories have the power that writing has.
I read a quote somewhere that says, "The white man was good and reasonable and intelligent and courageous. The savages arrayed against them were sinister and stupid. I hated their guts."
That's right. Now, that was my recollection, one of my recollections of my encounter with English literature. They were depicted as definitely not European. They were incapable of creating a civilization or sustaining one. So you saw them in a very bad light.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and this was very consistent. When I came to the age when I was able to draw a line between a good story and a story that is contrived for a purpose, a story that puts me in the position of savage, jumping up and down, by the riverside, as having done nothing, having created nothing of worth. When I began to read at that depth, which is not a depth for little children, I then, it sort of dawned on you one morning that there is something behind this storytelling.
Is part of your responsibility in your mind as a writer to accurately depict your people?
Yes, well, I think it's my ambition to distinguish between good novels and bad novels. I'm not talking about looking good. I'm talking about seeing a human being as human.
What did your parents make of you wanting to be a writer?
I wouldn't say there was any protest, but there wasn't any rejoicing either. You see, I think I was lucky in the family I had and have. We don't impose on others. This is one great thing.
With that sort of freedom, it allows you to pursue your true passions then.
Mm-hmm.
Which is rare, and I would argue in most Nigerian families, you're not encouraged to pursue your passions.
No. No, especially if you describe it as passions.
Were you born a writer?
Coming up, Achebe tells us what makes writing worth it.
For me, there are 3 reasons for becoming a writer. The first is that you have an overpowering urge to tell a story. The second, that you have information of a unique story waiting to come out. And third, which you learn in the process of becoming, is that you consider the whole project worth the considerable trouble. I have sometimes called it terms of imprisonment you will have to endure to bring it to fruition.
Were you born a writer?
Yes, I think so. I think so because I don't remember any day that anybody said to me, you go and start writing or go and learn about writing. It was there. And I don't remember ever being offended because I was reading a story or I was hearing a story.
Chinua Achebe was in his mid-20s when he wrote his first novel, Things Fall Apart, which is widely regarded as a masterpiece. Set in the early 1900s, the book tells of the downfall of a prosperous farmer as colonial powers take over his country. Since its publication in 1958, the book has sold 10 million copies and has been translated into 50 languages, making Achebe one of the most successful African authors of all time.
Did you have any idea how important that book would become when you were writing it?
I had absolutely no idea. I had nothing even approaching an idea about it. I simply had this strong feeling that there was a story waiting to be told.
How did life change for you after the publication of Things Fall Apart?
I became famous. I had no idea about fame and things like that, quite frankly. So the success of a book meant I'd only written one book at that point. So everything that happened to it was the first to me.
That was 51 years ago. More books followed, including No Longer at Ease and Arrow of God. Achebe married, eventually had 4 children, and watched his career flourish. But things fell apart in 1967 when Nigeria exploded into a bloody 3-year-long civil war. His region of the country, Biafra, was fighting to secede. He was fighting to stay alive.
During the Biafra War, your home was bombed. Several of your friends were killed.
Yes. Yeah, and some soldiers went to my office and said they wanted this man, Achebe. We hear his pen is very strong. We want to compare it with our guns. Yeah. And the reason is that I wrote a book which ended with a military coup for the first time in Nigeria. And 2 days after the book was published in London, there was a military coup in Nigeria.
Well, it was just a coincidence.
Of course.
But people thought that you may have been involved in some way.
I was the organizer of the coup. And there was no point telling them that a novel, therefore, if I was planning a coup, I wouldn't write a novel. That wouldn't be my procedure. But those fellows were not the kind of people you would make jokes with.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the best thing is to take your 2 children then and run away. And so I went into hiding.
That novel, A Man of the People, was published in 1966. After the war began, Achebe became a spokesman for his people and an enemy of the ruling military. It took a toll.
But how do you create under duress? How do you write when you're living in fear for your life?
It's difficult, and the kind of writing you do would be different. I can't tell any more than that, but it would have to be different. And yeah, you're almost always on your toes.
Mm-hmm. I understand that you were writing a lot of poetry during that period.
And short stories, yes.
Is that
yes.
because you don't really have time to sit around and ruminate? You have to keep moving.
Exactly.
3 million people died during that war.
Yeah.
It's probably the darkest period in Nigeria.
Yeah, definitely. Not, no doubt at all. And in fact, while it was going on, it was described as the worst civil war in history. In the act of making
It would not be the last time Achebe escaped death. In 1990, a car accident in Nigeria left him paralyzed from the waist down.
It's tough to go through that experience, and it's tough to even attempt to analyze things that are so deep. Mm-hmm. But at least I think I can say that I've had the stability of my family.
There a part of you that still wants that one Nobel Prize? You can tell me. Come on.
No, I won't tell you. Africa believes in people, in cooperation. If the philosophical dictum of Descartes, I think, therefore I am, represents a European individualistic ideal. The Bantu Declaration, Umuntu Ngumuntu Ngabantu, represents an African communal aspiration. A human is human because of other humans.
Please join me in welcoming Professor Chinua Achebe to the University of Notre Dame.
Chinua Achebe still draws crowds, most recently at Notre Dame University. But nowhere is he more beloved than in his country of Nigeria. During a rare trip home earlier this year, his 78-year-old was greeted like royalty. Another great man of the same generation, former South African President Nelson Mandela, says he found comfort in Achebe's writings while he was in prison.
Both of us differing circumstances within the domination of our continent became freedom fighters.
Ugu's auntie patted Ugu's shoulder, whispered that
28-year-old Nigerian author Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie is often compared to Achebe. Both are of the Igbo tribe, and Adichie's books have also won acclaim.
I also think he's a man of just immense integrity.
At a book signing in London, she said Achebe's works had a profound impact on her.
And really, for me, Things Fall Apart completely changed my understanding of what literature was. It made me realize what a big house literature was, that it had many rooms in which, you know, that it had the possibilities of literature were limitless, that it was okay to tell your own story.
How do you feel about the young writer Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie? She's often compared to you.
Her work is good. Her work is important. And I have said so openly. And I'd like to leave it there.
Who are you watching? Which young African writers are you most excited about?
I don't give those kinds of answers.
Why?
Why? Because I might forget my best friends and name somebody that I didn't really intend to name. And I don't think it's the business of writers, especially those who are called senior writers, to authenticate, to sit and pass judgment as if, I have to go there and bow to him to get a title.
You've been called the father of African literature. Who do you pass the torch to?
I was never consulted before that title was given to me, so I've been resistant. I don't think anybody owns the art, especially the art of a people. It's not mine, it's ours.
These days, he has a comfortable life, teaching English at Bard, a small liberal arts college in upstate New York. Though he's surrounded by family and has lived here for nearly 2 decades, he says he misses his homeland.
I will live in Nigeria again. I will live and die there. Once I've done what I have to do.
Today he's focused on teaching and writing. This fall he'll publish his first new book in more than 20 years, The Education of a British Protected Child, a collection of autobiographical essays.
Writing is difficult, but is it difficult for you now after all of these decades still?
Oh yes. Good writing requires more than just dashing things off. It's interesting because while it is work, it is also enjoyable, especially when it's working out right.
You're at an age where most of your peers have already retired.
Yeah.
But you continue to write and you continue to work. Why?
Well, why not? Do you have a job for me? Yeah, that's the only thing I've really wanted to do. I've not been disappointed by my writing. I have been disappointed by all kinds of other things and people, but not by my writing.